Makakula. Today on the program, business journalist Nosiwe Ndlamandla sits down with Philippa Thorne, a social entrepreneur and advocate, for a conversation on inclusive business practices to understand the importance of creating space for all voices in the world of business. Across the globe, the power of entrepreneurship is increasingly being recognized not just for driving innovation, but also for building more inclusive societies. Today, we take a closer look at how entrepreneurship can be a powerful tool to promote social inclusion, breaking down barriers and creating opportunities for marginalized communities. And in our business news today, over 2,000 Eswatini have already downloaded the Government in Your Hand application launched just last month. Let's go straight to our first story. Our leading story, His Majesty King Mswati III says the Kingdom of Eswatini is actively working to strengthen its energy sector. The King says the Kingdom aims to engage with the Republic of Mozambique in order to establish a natural gas storage facility. His Majesty was speaking at Manvulo Grand Hall in Lozita, where he officially welcomed the President of Mozambique, His Excellency Daniel Chapo, who was in the Kingdom on a one-day state visit.
Yes. From our side in Eswatini, we are still importing a lot of energy from our neighbors and so on. So we discussed the issue having the fact that Mozambique has found gas, which is one of the natural resources which is actually good in terms of producing energy, to see how Eswatini and Mozambique can share in this project. And I'm happy that one of the issues we looked at and that we addressed was that it is important to set up a strategic gas storage. And I did inform His Excellency that currently we are embarking on in the next month or so, or the next couple of 2 months, we will be starting a strategic oil reserve. But the area where the strategic oil reserve is going to be built is big enough that it will not only accommodate oil reserve storages alone, but also it can also have the potential of facilitating for.
His Majesty the King also emphasized on the urgency of having these aspirations implemented as soon as possible.
The thing is to how we really work together and make things happen. And I'm happy to say that you know, our discussions with His Excellency was very fruitful. I'm very encouraged and his enthusiasm about looking at all these issues that we address. And he assured me that as soon as he gets back to Mozambique, he will sit down with his team. And I promised him that from two weeks, these issues that we discuss with His Excellency, we need follow-up. So in terms of follow-up, we agree that there should be a joint meeting, which will not just start from the next 2 weeks, but we will start from 2 weeks, and then we'll continue for every year. We will have this.
President Daniel Chapo spoke on the amicable bilateral relations between Eswatini and Mozambique, highlighting how important that is.
I'm here to give you my commitment that all the projects, we will sit in Maputo and to talk about it and to make action, because Mozambique, Eswatini, our people, you want to see the results. Let's do it, and let's work together. We are family, we are one. Mozambique is Eswatini, Eswatini is Mozambique. We are together, let's work together.
Over 2,000 Eswatini have already downloaded the government in your hand application launched just a month ago, a powerful tool designed to bring essential services closer to the people and businesses of Eswatini. This was revealed by Principal Engineer in the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, Sakile Dlamini, during the tech-driven seminar hosted by A Peculiar People in partnership with MTN as part of the impactful 21 Days of Yellow Care initiative.
Since we launched the Government in Your Hand mobile app, we've seen a number of downloads. They are mounting above 2,000 at the moment, but we want to encourage Eswatini to continue downloading the app, and we encourage them, we plead with them to use the app and to also give feedback, where they need to, when they face challenges, with the app. And also they can even recommend improvements on the app. So we are looking at making sure that we interact more with Eswatini using the mobile app. And it's not yet very perfect at the moment, but we are building it in an agile approach, making sure that we onboard services as we develop them. So for now, we've got services where you can track your registrations, at Home Affairs, you can track your ID, you can track your ID documents, you can track your passport, and travel documents. And then you can also apply for a scholarship, if you are a student, just using the app. And also you are able, if you are a business person, you are able to do company name reservation, company name registration, trading license, renewal, and payments. So it really has improved, the interaction between government, between business and government.
And that's it for our business news. Thank you for staying with us. After the break, Neil Siwa sits down with Philippa Thorne from the U.S. Embassy.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. Across the globe, the power of entrepreneurship is increasingly being recognized, not just for driving innovation, but also for building more inclusive societies. Today, we take a closer look at how entrepreneurship can be a powerful tool to promote social inclusion, breaking down barriers and creating opportunities for marginalized communities. Joining us is Philippa Thorne, a social entrepreneur and advocate for inclusive business practices. We sat down with her to understand the importance of creating space for all voices in the world of business.
Philippa, thank you for joining us on Market View today. You were speaking about social inclusion through entrepreneurship during the empowerment seminar. So I want you to briefly explain to us, how do you define it in the entrepreneurship context?
So I think some of the key strategies for building a socially inclusive business model is to focus on community engagement and collaboration. So I think it's really important that, when we do try and address problems of the community, we need to start at the roots, and we need to really engage people and find out, what are their problems and how can they be involved in creating the solution. I think, we also really need to look at empowering women and youth and underrepresented groups, strategies. And then I think also leveraging local resources and knowledge. I think, that's really holds a lot of secrets to the strengths that we have as a community and as a country. I think Eswatini has a very rich culture and natural heritage. So I think, really leveraging those resources is something that's going to ensure that no one's left behind when we come up with these solutions.
What are some of the key strategies for building a socially inclusive business model?
I think, finally building resilient networks. That's why we're here today with a peculiar people. They put together a fantastic network together with 21 days of MTN Yellow Care. And these kind of networks are really critical so that we keep having dialogues with other like-minded entrepreneurs and also engaging across different sectors. So, that's between government and private sector and also, within the community as well.
You have been involved in business for some time now, Philippa. What are some of the opportunities and challenges that young people should look out for as they start their businesses in the country?
So I think some of the challenges that young entrepreneurs face is that, they're lacking in resources. So whether it's financial resources or access to skills and human resources, often it's just you're starting out on your own. You don't have a whole team of people behind you to do all different aspects of your business. I think, how we can try to address those solution is really embrace diversity as a competitive edge. So celebrate our differences, and really when we're coming up with business solutions, like really thinking out of the box and involving everyone in those solutions. I think also cross-sector collaboration. So, I come from the handcraft sector, and I think these collaborations across sectors can be, really pivotal. We had a designer recently who, for example, at MTN Bushfire, who's a young entrepreneur, and she works in recycled materials, and she came and created outfits for our green team. So they were walking around the festival in these beautiful outfits that were designed by a young entrepreneur. And I think, those kind of collaborations really help to build networks. They help to give confidence to the entrepreneurs. They help to, get exposure for their work. So I think those kind of collaborations are really important. I also think storytelling. I think we need to encourage our young entrepreneurs to get out there and tell their stories and really tell their authentic stories, why they started their business, what is the driving force behind them. And I think, storytelling is definitely something we all need to use when we look at growing our businesses these days, because customers really want to engage in something meaningful. And I think, that's what our young entrepreneurs have to offer.
It has been said over time that digital platforms nowadays play a key role in promoting and marketing a business. What is your advice to the entrepreneurs of the country regarding using the digital tools?
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of using digital tools to support a number of areas in my businesses. So obviously marketing is an obvious one. So, you know, from social media, so we've got your Instagram and Facebook. A lot of small entrepreneurs are using WhatsApp as their kind of first sales point, and people are actually WhatsApping directly to buy products. I think it goes beyond that. I think with AI, obviously, you can even use an AI tool to give you a business analysis. So I can put in my business idea to AI and I can say, you know, give me feedback on this. So I think there's such a huge array, and we're just like it's only really starting to scratch the surface.
Before I let you go, you are running successful businesses. Can you share some words of wisdom to young people who want to venture into business, or those that are running business currently in the country?
So I think my advice would be is to do a lot of research in the beginning and then keep researching. It's really important to understand like who you're trying to target with your product. So like who's your target consumer, and understand what they're looking for in a product. Because sometimes I think we can create a business idea or model in our own silo, and we're not necessarily meeting the needs of, you know, the customer. So I think, and then don't stop researching, you know, keep researching things. That the world is a fast changing environment, and like you said, you can use digital tools. So just keep researching, look at what your competitors are doing, look at what other people out there are doing, and yeah, just keep researching.
Philippa, having you on Market View has been a pleasure today. You have highlighted that social inclusion is very important, especially in entrepreneurship, because it contributes to the sales, even the marketing. It has been a pleasure having you on the show.
Right, and that was Philippa Thorne from House on Fire having a conversation with business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlamandla on promoting social inclusion through entrepreneurship. After the break, we take a look at today's markets with Sanellis Bia. Stay with us.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Welcome back. This is the final segment of Market View. In the backdrop of the investment developments happening in the country, His Majesty's leadership continues to lead the charge for urgent development. As we have covered on our news segment, that His Majesty King Mswati III has declared that the kingdom is actively working to strengthen its energy sector. The king says the kingdom aims to engage with the Republic of Mozambique in order to establish natural gas storage facility. The king was speaking at Manvulo Grand Hall in Lozita, where he was officially welcoming the President of Mozambique, His Excellency Daniel Chapo, who was in the kingdom on a one-day state visit. Our economist Sanellis Bia reacts to this development. He is in studio right now. Thank you, Sanellis, for joining us. What are the key things to expect in this development?
Thank you, Lingelile, and good afternoon. So, as you know, Eswatini and Mozambique are quite proximal neighbors, but when you look at trade between these two proximal neighbors, is not at the levels one would expect it to be because of the colonial legacy, you know, in terms of we were more inclined towards South Africa compared to the Portuguese colonized Mozambique. And then therefore thereafter there was the entire SACU, the setting up of SACU, of the customs union, which actually did include Mozambique. So we were inclined to look further south than to look east. But now this is an opportune moment for us as a kingdom to look east and try to balance our aspirations for continued mobilization of revenues, maybe through your SACU revenues, and also while we expand our trade with Mozambique, and find those areas that we do not necessarily trade with much in SACU on, right? And if you look at, for example, the example you mentioned of natural gas storage, Mozambique is actually discovered one of the biggest natural gas reserves in Southern Africa, actually in the globe. The biggest in Africa. And so what we need to do there as a country is we need to strategically think about how we can get to store the gas that we draw from the ground and how we can get it to make money for us as a kingdom, right? And how we can improve our energy sustenance. We need to be sustainable in terms of our energy. So these are opportunities that we need to look east into and, try to leverage on such and grow the economy so that we do get to the level of energy sufficiency, and we look into other issues such as, exports in agriculture. Back in the day when I was younger, working in the field, I would hear a lot of business people, just complain about how much product they want to push into Mozambique, but because of those regional trade barriers, the red tape it takes for one to go into Mozambique, put a product there, is actually quite long. And we do expect that after these talks, we will see a bit of movement around how we can make trade between the two countries relatively easy.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for the country and good for the economy as well.
Yes.
But expanding trade between nations can also raise concerns, high concerns regarding negative impact to domestic industries and workers as well. Could this happen, with this agreement between Mozambique and Eswatini?
So what we need to appreciate about trade between Eswatini and Mozambique is we actually already are part of a trade bloc which is called COMESA, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. So we do understand that there are those fears that there will be industries that might lose and there will be industries that might gain. So that's why I'm saying we need to focus on how we structure the trade talks and the trade relations, and then we decide what we are liberalizing, what we are allowing to come in, and after we've done the cost-benefit analysis as a country. So this is an opportunity, as a starting point for us to start engaging in those talks and, deciding on the products that we want to engage in and the sectors that we want to support, and also the sectors that we want to protect, both from the Mozambique side and from the Eswatini side. Effectively, we will want to protect certain areas of our economies.
Okay, all right, well said, Mrs. Via. We just have 6 minutes now to go through today's markets. With what's we are waiting for U.S.-China trade talks that's happening in London today. What's also happening in international markets?
So the U.S.-China talks are actually driving economy, stock market activity today, right? That's the main thing that the traders are looking forward to. So if you look into the U.S. markets, you will see that we're relatively closed on the green across the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is back on that 6,000 mark. So there's a bit of optimism, given that we saw good jobs data come out of the U.S. And also markets are a bit optimistic in terms of what is going to happen, what is going to come out of those trade talks. And then if you move to Europe again, there is an impact of those trade talks because, as you know, those trade talks are actually going to essentially determine global trade. Whatever the outcome is between China and the US is actually going to determine global trade. So when we're looking into the European markets, you see that London as well and that Germany are actually keeping on the positive footing while we are waiting for these numbers on those trade talks to come. But when you look into the UK economy, you'll see we noted that when you looked at the jobs net data that came out from the UK economy, it showed that the job creation was not as one would have expected, and therefore that raises odds for increasing the interest rates, and that's what we're seeing the markets doing there in terms of the strength within the London markets, with the hope that the Bank of London will eventually cut the interest rates. And then when you're looking into the greater Eurozone, we are still awaiting those talks, and that Germany and France are going to be largely impacted because President Trump still hasn't come up with a deal with those with Europe, but we know there is one deal that's already on the table and signed with the UK, so that's why we're seeing those positive news there. Then when you come into looking into Asia, again, markets are jittery, waiting for those news to come out in terms of waiting for those news to come out. With Japan, what we've seen there is the Nikkei is gaining a bit of ground, largely because we're seeing the news coming out of the Bank of Japan stating that they are actually going to play around and play around with their levels of repurchases on those bonds. Remember, we've been talking about the bonds issue within the Japanese economy. China and the autonomous Hong Kong, they are relatively flat while we are waiting for those news, and we're hoping that tomorrow when these talks finalize, we do get something better to come out. So that's what markets are just holding on to a bit here. South Africa is continuing to actually be on an upsurge. As we know that South Africa is a resource-based economy, number one. The resources are performing very relatively well this time. And also when you look into the basic macroeconomic stability within South Africa, there is a budget, we have a government of national unity. They haven't had load shedding, so the fundamentals are relatively good for commerce, and it shows that the GNU is trying to do something to change the economy, and we've also seen that cut in interest rates. There hasn't been movements in the Eswatini Stock Exchange, and when we come into the commodities, gold has actually lost a bit of ground because the dollar is strengthening, but there is a bit of uncertainty because we still remain above that 3,300 mark, and Brent crude is also on that increase because we are hopeful that the deal is going to be good, between China and the US, and we've seen President Trump hinting that they are actually doing very well in the talks. We've seen the Commerce Secretary stating that they're spending so much time together, so we are quite hopeful, and global demand is actually expected to stabilize and increase a bit, so the Brent crude oil is shifting up a bit. And then when you look into the currencies, we're seeing a relative relative weakness of the Lilangeni in today's trades. That's purely because we're seeing those talks happening within between the US and China. That has actually a positive impact on the dollar, which actually is negative for us. Same thing with Europe. We are hopeful that once things stabilize and with the flux of defense spending within the UK, within the European economies. So there is a bit of tendency on the euro to actually strengthen against the Lilangeni. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Sbiya. Always appreciated. It's 29 minutes after 2. We've come to the end of today's episode of Market View. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow at exactly 2 p.m.